From the tiger statue outside Central Station to Christian IV's glove on Rådhusgata, the city of Oslo is full of curious sculptures. While discovering these artworks is one of the great joys of wandering the streets of Norway's capital city, it is Oslo's sculpture parks that are the real highlights. You may have heard of Vigeland Park, but did you know that Oslo has at least 3 other sculpture parks? Keep watching as I take you on a tour of all of them. First things first, a quick word about modern Oslo. Art-based travel is more associated with France, Spain, and Italy than Scandinavia, yet things are changing in the north. The recent opening of 2 flagship museums has put Oslo firmly on the map for anyone interested in art history. Together with an attractive new library and of course the Opera House, the museums are the latest stage in the decades-long transformation of Oslo and its waterfront. The sculpture parks provide added interest for the art tourist. Let's start with the big one. The Vigeland sculptures are set in the heart of Vigeland Park, a vast green space on the western side of Oslo that's popular with local joggers and dog walkers just as much as it is tourists. One of the most famous tourist attractions in all of Norway, the Vigeland Sculpture Park draws big numbers of people to Oslo every year. More than 200 of Gustav Vigeland's sculptures in bronze, granite and iron are on display in the park, which Vigeland himself designed. It's essentially a showcase of his life's work. The park is split into several zones, which keeps things interesting as you pass through. These entrance gates are an impressive start. After a short walk through Parkland, you arrive at the bridge, which is lined with impressive bronze sculptures on both sides. It's here you'll find the famous Angry Boy. Just look for the group of people taking photos, you can't miss it. Then it's on via a rose garden to the fountain. This is not so often switched on these days, but it's still an impressive piece of artwork even when it's dry. The Vigeland Museum says of the 6 male figures holding the saucer-shaped vessel aloft, the men, representing different ages, may be interpreted as toiling with the burden of life. The centerpiece of the park is the famous monolith, made from a single piece of granite. This sculpture is said to be a vision of a resurrection and our longing and striving for spirituality. It took 3 masons 14 years to make, based on a clay model made by Vigeland in his Frogner studio. The striking monument stands 17 meters tall and depicts more than 100 human figures climbing over each other, desperate to reach the top. As well as being the centerpiece of the park, the monolith is the centerpiece of a series of granite sculptures set around these steps. Don't miss these curious gates too. Many people assume they've reached the end of the park at this stage, but that's not actually the case. It continues beyond the monolith and up these steps to the Wheel of Life. The wheel is a symbol of eternity, designed as a rotating wreath of women, men, and children holding onto each other for all eternity. You can easily spend hours exploring the Vigeland sculptures, so I'd encourage you to bring some food and drink and allow yourself to relax in the wider Frogner Park. It's also well worth a visit here in the winter. It's much quieter, and the sculptures and the park have a very different feel when dusted with snow. Just be sure to wrap up warm. While you're at Vigeland Park, make sure you visit both Vigeland Museum to learn more about the man himself and see some of the plaster originals for the sculptures in the park, and the City Museum, which is housed in this delightful manor house in one corner of Frogner Park. It showcases some great photography and illustrations from Oslo through the ages. To reach the park, you can take the metro to Majorstuen and walk from there in about 10 or 15 minutes, or take the tram or the bus to the park gates. Ekeberg Park, high up on a hill overlooking downtown Oslo, has been transformed over the last 15 years. International art is now the focus of Ekeberg Park, yet it draws a mostly local crowd given its location. Despite this, it's easy to reach on the tram or bus that stop right outside the park, and the grounds are always open. Thanks to this lofty location, the views across the city are well worth the trip alone. It's fair to say that the themes of this park will not be to everyone's taste. Fertility is a focus, and artwork is at times provocative. Nevertheless, the sculptures have been a hit here in Oslo. The park is much bigger and steeper than you may realise, so if you want to see everything, plan to stay a while and bring a bottle of water. Among the famous names in the park are none other than Gustav Vigeland and the Spanish surrealist Salvador Dali, but my favourite installations in the park aren't all sculptures in the typical sense. Named Pathfinder, this eerie fog emerging from the trees is a work by Fujiko Nakaya. It demonstrates the power of nature and creates a fairy tale-like atmosphere in the park. It's switched on several times per day during high season, so it's well worth checking in advance to time your visit. Another unique installation developed for the park is based on Edvard Munch's world-famous work, The Scream. In 2013, Serbian performance artist Marina Abramovic created a performance piece also titled The Scream, an homage to the famous painting. Marina and 270 residents of Oslo screamed out their emotions at the place where Munch was said to have been inspired to create the work. Visitors today are invited to participate, and whether you choose to scream in public is entirely up to you. There is a cafe housed in one of these traditional villas, and also the upscale Ekeberg restaurant. Even if you don't visit the restaurant, it's worth visiting the viewpoint just outside for this spectacular view of the rapidly developing city. Here you'll also find the meditative Chloe, yet another of the curious pieces of artwork in Ekeberg Park. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Ekeberg Park down in the comments. The Princess Ingrid Alexandra Sculpture Park at the Royal Palace Park. Located at the top of Rådhusgata, the Royal Palace is a must-visit site in Oslo. Yet many visitors to the majestic building, there to admire it or to see the changing of the guard, don't realise that the palace gardens are equally as interesting. When the park's romantic layout was first conceived, it was constructed around 3 ponds, all of which serve as focal points in the gardens today. As part of the King and Queen's 25th anniversary celebrations in 2016, the Princess Ingrid Alexandra Sculpture Park was opened. Named after the princess who will one day become queen, the sculpture park is small, with only 12 sculptures, but unique in Norway as it's by and for children. The sculptures were designed and chosen by 5th and 6th graders in a nationwide competition. The first one to be unveiled was this, Rabbit in Trouble. Other popular sculptures in the park include the geometric fox, the big worm, and the faceless man. But personally, I'm a fan of mouth legs. There are several other sculptures dotted around the palace park. You're unlikely to miss this one of King Karl Johan directly in front of the palace. Tjuvholmen. Last but not least, the Tjuvholmen development next to Aker Brygge is mainly known for its swish apartments, fancy restaurants, and the Astrup Fearnley Museum of Modern Art. The museum offers an eclectic range of modern art and is one of the most notable institutions of its kind in Scandinavia. But surrounding the museum is a waterfront sculpture park that's worth seeking out if you're interested in contemporary art. There's plenty of places to sit and enjoy the waterfront views too. Beyond the sculpture parks and beyond the art museums, Oslo offers so much to see and do, whatever your interests. Watch this video next to discover the very best of Oslo, from the ski jump arena up on the hillside to a boat trip out to the idyllic islands of the Oslo Fjord.